Mountainside, baby. There we go.
The mountains high and the valley so deep. Can't get across to the other side.
I don't know why that's breaking up. Sorry about that, but we'll just see how it goes. And if this is good enough track, well, we'll put up with that little musical snag. And if it's bad enough to where it's not acceptable, I'll just say, well, we can't make a video with that, musical snag. Hi, everybody. It's Dick and Dee Dee. The mountain is freaking high, baby. And it's great using them to introduce us to Mexico, too. We have arrived. Oh, yeah. So, there we go with Dick and Dee Dee. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the outside as we fill in Chapter 2. We have arrived, baby. So, as our last story left off, it's Annabie and I sleeping on the blacktop underneath the front, motor, underneath, between the two front wheels, okay? Now, I never got to sleep, and I told you in the last chapter that I was freezing, and if I were freezing, just thank your lucky stars you weren't there, because I'm never cold, and that means if I were cold, you would die. Okay, I made that point. Let's just get on with it. So Annabie and I had gathered together. I don't remember the specifics, but we gathered together our sleeping bags or our blanket, whatever the heck we had to put over us when we were sleeping, is what each of us brought down as we were, it was too late, 2 in the morning for Ted to be able to put up all this planking for extra beds in the van. Yes, it's a camper and you can sleep a lot of people in there, but you have to be with it enough energy to do it, to know what you're doing. But he was neither of those things. He did not have the energy to do it. Hey, man, he was captain freaking first class. He got us there alive. And he didn't miss a turn off. You know what? If he's a little tired, hallelujah, brother. Here's one to you. So anyway, in the morning, like I say, Ted couldn't make up the beds in the van. Oh, okay. So we slept on the blacktop below the truck. And finally, the sun came up. I didn't rush it. When it first started showing the indications, the twinkling of sunrise, I didn't give in just yet. I just sat there like I was asleep, and I wasn't asleep. And I waited, because sunrise was a friend of mine. All she required on my part was patience. And at this particular point, being able to, weigh out the options, I was patient. Didn't have to be patient long. That sun, when you see it at times like that, you don't understand it when you see it in the middle of the day, why it doesn't just move. Because when it comes up and it goes down, it's deceivingly fast. So you wonder, well, why doesn't it just, No, it's deceiving. You know, talk to a scientist about it. I'm just here to tell you the story. All right. So anyway, fortunately, what I'm trying to get to, after the sun starts to come up, the sun soon does come up. And it's right at this little juncture that Annabelle and I spurred her on, you know. She wasn't going to sit there and pretend she was sleeping if I wasn't, and I wasn't. And so we both got up, we both started to move around, and all of a sudden we realized we had a problem. We were surrounded by locals. But it was too late. They saw us stirring, so they gathered around us and they closed in on us. And they said, "Nah! Nah! Nah! We were surrounded by a gang of about 10 grown pelicans. And then recognizing us as tourists, because, you know, the locals, they don't sleep on the blacktop. Not unless it was a crazy night. And, you know, we can talk about that more later, too. But so they knew we were, the pelicans knew we were tourists. Come on. That's okay. Once I and Annabelle actually started to, you know, realizing that there's no turning back, let's just get up and get on with it. Well, she got up with me and all the pelicans go, ah! Ah! They're getting up. Ah! They don't have any food. Ah! Don't give up, guys. We're going to be here a couple weeks. I'm sure we'll get something for you. So we could just stand around freezing with our stupid sleeping bags under one arm and the pillows under the other. It wasn't locked. We opened the damn door and we said, "Hey, man, get the heck up. Time to eat." And that was very heartening to him, because he did get up. I mean, what's he going to do? It's not like we would have went to breakfast without his ass, is what we would have done. That would have taught him. But no, he got up. And so what we did first of all is what I was just thinking about, is we had to have some substance. We had to eat breakfast. We had to fill our stomachs because, you know, I've explained to you the symptom. You drink unbelievable, massive amounts of liquids, and eventually you need to eat something. It's just the one flaw in the thing that we know as the human body, is we have to stop to eat. But, yeah, as long as we can do it, we can still pull off this game. That's right, baby. Skiing down the slopes of life. And still playing it our way. And, you know, you get what you pay for what you get, and you take your chances, you know. And no matter whether you have a bad outcome or a good outcome, if it's your choice, what the hell, man? It doesn't matter about the exact outcome. It's my choice. Love that part about it. So anyway, where are we? Okay, we get his ass up. All right, hold on. I'll put this off too long. Now, Ted is awake. We are a trio. And the town Bahia de Los Angeles, Bay of Los Angeles, is about a quarter of a mile as it follows the shore of the eastern shore of Bahia de Los Angeles. And it goes out to a turtle sanctuary, actually, out there. Cool. You know, right at the bend where it comes back around. We'll talk more about that later. Oh, yeah, we got around. But the next thing we did that morning, and concerned eating, well, Ted knew where to go. He'd been here before. So where he took us was, we only ate there once, but it was beautiful and luscious, beautiful. The food, the plates she presented. See, where it was a local house owner, and up above one of the TV room, I don't know, up above that was a patio. And from up there is where she served us the food, and there were, awnings, shadings, if you went there during the time of day where you would need shadings, because it could get hot out there. And we're in the off-season, we don't have to worry all that much about that. It's in the tourist season where it really gets up. But anyway, it was quite pleasant. It was, early in the morning, and this lady was quite glad to, be our restaurant chef. And she didn't really speak English. She spoke English enough to where it wasn't uncomfortable, and we could kind of, point out what wanted. And if anyone had talent in her understanding us, it was her, because we. But anyway, this is the first meal in Bahia de Los Angeles, and I'm here to tell you, I don't recall everything that came out of that kitchen, but I know what I did recall, and that is the specific site of those fried eggs. There's 3 of us, and I remember that everything else looked as luscious as those fried eggs did. Everything wasn't just an egg, it was an egg, baby. Everything that she brought out wasn't just it was an baby. She served a luscious breakfast, and it just was what we needed to, start our engines over again, because, hey, we got things to do. We have arrived. So we enjoyed that meal and left a tip, and, we didn't really see her again, but, gee, it was nice to see her, and she was so nice, and such a wonderful meal. We haven't even begun to spend money yet. I mean, this is all nothing here. And so then there becomes the question, okay, we've hit town, we have arrived, we've eaten breakfast, what now? And Ted had kind of an idea about that. He never mentioned this little, what do you call it, detour of his to us. All those hours in the van, sitting right there. No, he never mentioned it. So after breakfast, what Ted does, Theodora, Slow Ted, the Tedster, the one who had visited this town about a year ago, his first act, and he's driving, so it's his play, man. We don't know anything. He's the one who's been here before. So I told you that the town has about 1/4 of a mile as it goes along the shore. And then there's a slight rise in the mountain. We had to drive over a great big mountain. Well, just at the back part of town is a smaller version of that. It's not hideous, but it's, so there are houses up on the hills and stuff, because if you have a house up on the hill, people tend to bother you less because it's all the way up on the, you see it. Oh, I remember. So where he takes us, he drives us up the hill a little bit and turns right again. So we're going parallel with the main street, but we're up on a higher street. And we only go a little ways, and he stops, and it turns out we're at the local school. The local school. Let me try to explain this. There aren't classrooms. there is a classroom. And everybody, I don't know how they figure it out, that's not my problem. But everybody who wants to and qualifies to be in this class, well, you know, that okay. The most tourists would never know that was there, and they wouldn't give a shit even if they did know. What the hell is that to us? You get out of school and serve me breakfast. You know, that type of attitude. Well, our party had a slightly different attitude, and that was because of Ted, of course. We didn't know what was going to happen, but he walked quite confidently into the classroom with Annabelle and me behind, holding the bags of stuff that he'd given to us, and said, "Just hold this." So he walked into the classroom, and the teacher stops what they're talking about and turns to us and says, "Hola, ¿cómo está?" And Ted says, "Bien, gracias a Dios," you know, and we were saying, "Hi, how are you?" And I don't know if Ted met them the last time he was here, but what he does was, you know, the teacher doesn't speak English. No one in the classroom speaks English. That doesn't matter. So once we say, "Hi, how are you?" we just give her a bit. Then the teacher turns to the classroom and says, it tells them all to say hi to the visitors. And all the students go, "Hi!" And they were just glad to see us. You know, we broke up their little... Anyway, so what Ted does next is, you know, unseen by Eddie or I, he brings out a European soccer ball. You know what that is? It's the round ball. Football, there's U.S. football and there's round black and white octagons football. So he brings one of those out and he says, "This is for the class and for you, and please enjoy." And the teacher is just overcome. And he says, "Well, everybody sang, blah, blah, blah." Well, as happenstance would determine, he wasn't done yet. Now Ted gets out a softball and a softball bat and a glove. Now, Ted played on a softball team up in Montreal, so, you know, he was hip to the jive about softball. So, because a hard ball will fly way up, miles away, end up in the ocean. You gotta go in there and try to get it. The sharks eat you and the game's over. But a softball, sure, you can whack the heck out of it and it'll still fly. You still get the effects. You're still a winner, but it just doesn't go as far because it's bigger and softer. So after you hit it, it doesn't go, it goes, and with the glove, there could be somebody out there saying, "Hey, baby, talk to me." You know, catch the ball. So he basically gave them a whole baseball game. And they were just beside themselves. The teacher couldn't believe it. The students couldn't believe it. But the teacher said, you know, because that was it. And so we said, "Okay, thanks now. We just wanted to share that. Enjoy. Bye." And the teacher realized we were living. The teacher realized we weren't dead. The teacher realized we were teaching. So he said to the students, and all the students said, "Thanks, bye." And it was just glorious. What a way to start a vacation in a tourist town where we're basically there all by ourselves with the inhabitants of that town. So he's already done something just very nice. So when the children go home to their houses, they aren't going to complain about the freaking tourists. They're going to say, "Hey, let me tell you about this." Hold on, bear with me. So fortunately, as I've mentioned before, Ted had been here before. Didn't like his hair, man. And so he had made friends with an Indian. You know, the town basically consists of, when we pulled up and parked on that blacktop, and we couldn't see anything, and Annabelle and I slept under the front of the van. Right in front of us, in between us and the bahia, the bay, the water, was a great restaurant. We ate there, we drank there once, and we ate there once. And it was, you'd never know you weren't in, you know, California somewhere. I mean, they might have spoke Spanish when they were giving it to you, but it was wonderful in there. Very high, nice quality. I'm not sure how they pulled it off, but because they did, I'm sure they reaped the rewards of, you know, when people did come there, people wanted to drink there, and, you know. Just the most pleasant little place. And it's just one of so many different kinds of options, because some people had money and they could present this, and some people had less money and they could present this. But they all presented, and it was a variety of options. Now, Ted knew the Indians in town. You know how Ted is like the main Indian in Montreal? Oh, I had it and I lost it. You know, social. He's the social director in Montreal, was. I mean, if you wanted to know anything about, look, he's the one. Well, that's the way this Indian was in Bahia de Los Angeles. This was the main honcho Indian of the Indians in the town. And the Indians in the town are the ones who get everything done. They're the, you know, they're there for tourists, and they're there to work for the big boss. The big boss is the one who owns the restaurant, and he owns the blacktop, and he owns the, there's a store up the hill, about 2 layers, and that also belongs to the owner of everything. That's where we went up to rent our cabin. And we arrived on the blacktop. Well, just to the right of the blacktop, there's this high-class cabin, baby. And it's a couple bedrooms and a bathroom, and there's no electricity or anything. But it's okay, because we brought like 100 Playboys, so we thought we were, you know, we had things covered. Hey, it didn't hurt. So anyway, yeah, the guy who owns the town, he's up there with his store and owns a cabin down here. But for the Indians, there's a guy kind of like Slow Ted from Montreal. This Indian is the head honcho Indian, you know, of the small group of 15 or so young men that are living there that aren't necessarily obvious to a tourist, but they were. So, sorry to drag this on. But Ted had met him the year before, and he had a guitar. And Ted knew that if this gentleman broke a string, it wasn't like going down to the corner store to get a new string. What you had to do if you were a native and you basically, money was, like being a musician, money was great when you got it, but you didn't always get it, not when you were an Indian and didn't own things. But, so, if someone had a guitar, this Indian, had a guitar and broke a string, he would just have to play on the other strings until somehow strings could be paid for. You could find somebody to send out to get them, and you could find somebody to bring them back. A little harder than it might originally sounded, you know what I'm saying? So what Ted did was he looked up this head Indian, and he gave him a set of guitar strings. And this Indian was very grateful. Because, like I said, you have problems getting strings when they break, when you're, you know. And so what this head Indian did was he invited us up to his house for lunch. He invited us to his house for lunch. You know he doesn't have as much money as we do, but he offered, and it was a thing of honor, because, you know, Ted had given him the guitar strings, and it was, oh, no, my turn now. And so he brought us up to his house, which was, I described how you got the water, and then in back is a slight hill. Well, his little home with his wife was, a couple of years up the hill, far enough to be out of the way, but not so far that you couldn't get to it without all that much trouble. You know, right in the zone there. So he brought us to his house, and informed his wife that they were setting up to give us lunch. And she never spoke. She just bowed, and the pleasure she got out of this experience was making sure that everybody was happy and that everything was okay and that, you know, whatever I can do for you. And the husband, of course, went along with this. He just happened to be the male counterpart, so he sat at the table with us. Now, I don't know what happens once the company leaves, but she never spoke. She only smiled, and she just, you know, brought us food. It was great, man. Of course, we thanked her every time she brought it, and she just said, you know. And we were so grateful for that food. I imagine similarly to how that lead Mexican Indian was thankful for the guitar strings. Hey, it meant a lot to us that he fed us. And it meant a lot to him that we would think of bringing him guitar strings. Well, Ted would think, you know, you see what I mean. So, you know, the way that the town, the Indians, the locals paid us, they didn't treat us like, they didn't look at us like tourists. That's kind of a dirty word, you know, because, you know, we all came from Monterey, California, and I've told you before, it's very quiet in the winter, and you can snuggle down and just be a few people, but all of a sudden, when summer comes, summer vacation, and the hordes just come in and make everything miserable. Well, that has to be the way it is in Bahia de Los Angeles, is, you know, tourists are rude. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to know what you can do. And so to be the opposite side of the coin, the locals see tourists as bait, prey. What else? You treat us like shit? How about if we take whatever we can get? Treat us like shit, take what we can get. Interesting how that goes together, huh? So, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is, man. But the greatest compliment they could give us is what they gave us. You know what they did? We weren't tourists. We were amigos, baby. Oh, yeah. Yee-haw. So what we did is invite the whole town down to our fantastic little cabin on the beach. And when I say on the beach, I mean you step off the porch, there's sand, and you walk a little further, and there's water. We were on the beach, baby. And but we had an outside porch that went the whole way across the 2 bedrooms. So at one room you got hi, how are you? And on the other side you got hi, how are you? 2 bedrooms and straight back in the middle, so convenient. You go back to the bathroom. All tile, all lacquer-y, all glorious. No electricity. That's okay. We got that covered. So what we did was invited all the locals to come and drink and play music on our porch. Because, well, we knew that the one guy played music, so Ted knew that they played music, okay? Now, I told you how much booze we bought. Oh, there's a little story I didn't tell you. Guess I better fill it in here. There turned out to be not the owner's store, but a little Indian-owned liquor store. And you walked in, and it was just tile, and there's still sand, you know, following you in with your sandals on the tile, because outside is sand. And so there are in the middle, this room is fairly big, in the middle of the room is at least 1, 2, 3, 4 cases of beer. Turn the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4 cases of beer. Turn the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. All sides, at least 4 cases of beer. And it went up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know how high. It went really high. So we had come at a great time of the way that life puts itself together. They had just received this order of all these cases of beer. They were Dos Equis and they were Tecates. And when we wanted something else to go along with the cases of beer that we bought, you just go over to where the owner's standing, right behind the little, service bar. Hello. And he had all the liquor back there. So we just ordered, vodka and tequila. And by the way, we're taking 4, 6, 8 cases of beer. When we first went in there and found this liquor store, there were, I don't know how many cases of beer that were on the floor, but like I tell you, I suspect that we just happened to show up the morning of the delivery. So all that beer was there. And we started chucking away at that mountain of beer, and, well, as long as I'm telling this story, I guess I can tell you. By the time we left, there wasn't any beer in that liquor store anymore, and there weren't any other tourists in town either. We drank up that whole freaking pile. Glorious. Isn't it great the way that things turn out sometimes? Okay. Well, this has gone on long enough, 35 minutes. So we'll see if we can't pick up the story somewhere along these lines. Where are they now? Are Dick and Dee Dee still here? Help us out if you are. There they are. Sorry, rambled, so shoot me. Looks like they're saying, so long, partner.